What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Competitive Edge Podcast. So I'm super excited today because our guest I got to meet here in Nashville, Tennessee, when Darren was one of the speakers with our friends over at the Atlas Alliance, and they were having their summit, and our guys there with Mike and Louie and everybody, they hosted an incredible event. I got to hear Darren speak, and I'll tell you guys, got to meet him backstage, got to hear him speak, and I started to learn more about who he was. I'm like, that's a dude I want to get to know more. And you're going to want to get to know him more as well, because some of the accolades he's had of selling over $6 billion in real estate. His team now is over 100 agents up in Canada. He's been doing this over 17 years, co-owner, founder of Redline Real Estate, part of the Real brokerage there. And what I love about Darren is the fact that he's one of those education guys. He's a giver, and he's somebody that walks the walk. Like, who's actually doing it or has done what they say they have done and can teach others and replicate that success. And one of the things that Darren shared that really caught my attention was helping real estate agents become multimillionaires. And I was thinking about this for mortgage is so many times we get fixed on our job. We never think about the opportunity to be in real estate or mortgage or these financial services to actually demonstrate and build that wealth and teach other people. I always believe if you haven't done it, really hard to teach other people. So Darren Langille is one of those guys. I'm gonna tell you guys, you want to buckle up today, because what we're going to talk about, from how he's built his own career to how he's diversified now into building a large team, and one of the top teams, I understand, that entire top team in Canada for real. And you're going to learn a lot of things, not about just leadership, but sales. We're going to break down some AI and technology and some things. And also why I believe, and Darren even shared this, going back to our fundamentals is actually what's going to create success in 25. So Darren, I could keep going, my friend. You got a long list of accolades, and you've killed it over the years, but welcome to the show.
That was an incredible introduction, and appreciate it. Yeah, it's 20 years now in the business. So you can imagine just surviving this long, you're going to do a few things. Hopefully, I've been lucky enough to stumble upon a bit of success, and that success keeps evolving and changing. And yeah, it was awesome to meet you down and hear you speak and be there at that event that we were able to host. So happy to be here and give whatever I can to your audience. So
yeah, I love it. And I didn't include this, but I will start with this is we both have 3 kids, and you're married and all those things. And I think about this all the time, is just starting here is like, Darren, I get this question, I'm sure you do a lot, is like, man, how do you do all these things and balance this and take care of your health? And you got a family and you're married and 3 kids and all this stuff. So I'm sure there's a way that you've kind of figured out over the years to make sure you're staying locked in to create success on your terms.
Yeah, that's I think too, we grow up and mature in our businesses as we go. And it is a journey. I think more than anything, I don't know, maybe it sounds cliche, but it's like, we need to understand why we're going to go and create that big goal we throw on the board. If you want to hit $1 million in sales, if you want to hit 100K for the first time, it's like, those are numbers. They're sexy. They generally are income based, but like, is it going to pull you out of bed? Right? Is it going to pull you every day when you don't feel like it? And I always come back to like, what's the pull goal? And it's usually not just the money. It's because the money does something else. So how do I achieve that? And I think in my case, there are seasons throughout my 20 years that I certainly was like, look back, maybe I spent way too much time out with buyers and sellers, and my one kid at the time didn't get as much as Darren, right? But then you adjust. And I think Gary Vee speaks a lot about trying to have good awareness about who we are. Mm-hmm. And awareness requires constant check-in. And I think that constant check-in allows you to make these pivots maybe sooner than you would if you went down this kind of like hustle culture for too long, and you forget that the wife's at home and this is there. And I grew a 6-pack went to a 1-pack, something like that. It's just that constant challenge, because we don't have bosses, to realign with why and what we did it. And then that allows you to say, okay, that 5:30 a.m. workout is a must. That is my slingshot move, so that business goes well. And then when business goes well, I crush it hard, so that when I have a chance to break to, pick up kid time, I can shut off and be present. I think that's kind of like what I try to portray to some of the agents that are struggling with that balance is that kind of combination of things.
Well, I love it. And I know you're doing that, because I watch there. It's like, you can watch and observe. And to your point, like we should always be observing ourselves and all that, but I can always watch people and you can see, like I've been out of alignment there where it's like traveling every week and completely sold out to the hustle culture. And like, how do I move up the corporate ladder when I was in corporate? And you look back and you're like, I'll say, God gave us our third kid because it's like, hey man, that's a chance to do it over. Let me see if you learned these lessons with the first two. And now that you've moved in and we were talking about this earlier, is you're not producing as much yourself, but you started to build a team. I think a lot of our listeners struggle with that is they either want to do it or they're in the season right now where they're trying to let go of production. They want to move into that, but they're just struggling with that piece. What advice would you give people that are, producing today, which is probably a large part of their income, but they're like, you know what, my real desire is I'd like to help others. I'd like to build a team ultimately, either in real estate or mortgage. How did you make that transition and advice you could give people?
Yeah, it's a good one. I've built like what I have now is 110 agent. It's a large group. We call it. It's not your conventional team where it's like 50-50, like a typical team leader would. And I know the mortgage business, you have that kind of different splits that when you bring on teams, it's not that. It's like, it's a lightened version and we create self-starters rather than we're not having them enter our ecosystem to kind of be handheld as much. And that was a conscious choice in my case to build a team that was somewhat unique to allow me to have a life by design. Right. So in that case, it was strategy. It's like, I can't, and I don't want to build the one that says that like I'm shackled to these team members to drive them to success. So I think step one is if you're looking to build a team, like you and I talked offline, why are you trying to achieve it? Is it to get back time? Because maybe your kid's pickup is at 3 p.m. and you want to be there for it. Well, you have to adjust the business for that, right? So if it was heavily buyer focused in the real estate side, that you don't have a lot of control over your day. And if you want to have control, you got to flip directionally your business to listings, right? So, but most realtors are like brokers. You'll take a lead from anywhere. You'll take a lead to do this, take a lead to do that. And you realize, oh my gosh, I'm running a business that's not in congruency to the life I try to have, right? I've found, and this is just my experience, and then talking to team leaders who have kind of gone through the gauntlet, I think, of team leadership. Team leader profitability in the industry is really low because you end up building something that has a ton of high costs to serve an agent body. And you end up just getting a team to create income to serve the costs. And it's hard to get above and beyond that. So instead of thinking about a whole bunch of agents to scale out, what if it's a whole bunch of administration that's not as much on a cost per transaction so that you can be super profitable? And if I don't know how much this parlays to mortgages, but the cost of a buyer's agent on your lead is 50% out the door. That's just like, right, gross. That's off the top line. But then you have all the hard costs. The cost of 3 great administrators to just make sure the transaction runs like smooth and you keep, say, 70% in a case like that, because the rest has gone into VAs or admin, is a much more profitable model. But it does keep you as the main person, but it does provide freedom because you're paying for help. You're not paying as much in my case as like outside agents plus. And that drives, when I look around the market, agents have longevity. Agents don't get resentment to the team they built, and they have high profit. And so I say all that to just give yourselves a gut check to say, well, when I say team, what am I trying to do? And then you can build it however you want. It doesn't have to be the same thing that you see the other guy doing or a coach told you to build, because it may not align with who you're trying to be. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's interesting because I made that shift and we've been building like big companies. We were talking about that, before we went live, and I'd worked in retail and corporate and all this stuff. We just built these massive companies where, you had multiple teams and multiple layers, and you get to a point where you just got to keep hiring people, and profitability, unfortunately, keeps going down, You're not really able to share the wealth. And in the model I moved to, I love you sharing this. It is very similar to mortgage. Like, we're very much franchise almost, where people get to set it up. They set up their own cost structure. They run their own expenses, and they can set it up however they want. And we really almost wholesale them the money in a way. And it's like, okay, now you have all the support structures around you, compliance, operations, marketing, and such. Now you go out and generate the business, and you take the lion's share of that profit. And we found people that are real entrepreneurs, real business owner operators love it, right? And the ones that aren't are like, yeah, I don't think I would do well. Or they enter that model and they lose money because they're just used to spending, and they have no concept of, wow, there's actually a cost to that lead. There's a cost to that customer to service them. And so I love that. And I'd love for you to kind of expand on that, because I think as you've gone through it, getting to that model, did you try something else before that? Or did you had experience in others that you said, hey, I don't want to do it that way, but I want to do it here? Because I think a lot of people just lack that clarity of like, what do I want to build?
Well, if you look around like the real estate industry, and you see the team in your market, right? The team leader, the figurehead that people know, and they got a team of 10 or 15 agents.
Yeah.
It is very unlikely that they're profitable. Even 30 agents sometimes. The cost of all of like giving them so much stuff to keep retention on an agent is not easy in today's market. You got to give. So there's a high cost structure. So all of a sudden you run this business and all the money comes in to basically service the cost. And then you still have to earn an income yourself. It's you trading anyways. Like, I remember like talking to my buddies in the US, and they're like, yeah, I got 35 agents now. I make 400 grand a year myself. I said, what does the team make? Well, it breaks even. You're like, so you do all this work just to break even on the cost, so that you just go sell the houses that if you didn't even run a damn team, you could have all that. And anyways, without the burden. And so I had a business partner, and he had a company out in Ontario, and we had our group, and we were coached by the same organization. And this mode, like, we were trying to hit our first million, right? So with million wasn't just on my individual sales, right? Like, this is gross commission. We needed to bring on teams. We were on this race to $1 million. Yeah. I remember all of a sudden we were racing. It took us 2 years, before us, and we both basically crested it funny in August of like 2000 and I'm going to say 16 at the same time. And we're just like, oh my goodness, I don't want this business. Right. But we got chasing something, and you didn't even realize that the profit line was just not there. And it was like these big numbers rather than the profit numbers. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I owned a team-based real estate brokerage from 2013 to 17. That was Redline. Mm-hmm. So that was the team structure, the 50-50 model. Right. And then when we finished that, hit these numbers, we were like getting accolades all over the place. And we're like, this is actually not as good as it sounds, right? So we rejigged it to say, well, we're used to giving lots of value, but I don't want to rely if like 4 agents leave tomorrow, it completely handcuffs my business, because I'm kind of got commission breath through the agents. That is not a cool place to be. You know what I mean? When you're worried if they're going to close a deal just to service costs. So we tweaked it, and we went and created the brokerage now, and we just created a high value brokerage, which would allow more people to come, but we reduced the split level. In a case like that, scale helped, right? Yeah. Going from 10 agents to 50 allowed me to have a little more stability on my income across 50 agents, but not one agent was going to crater me. Not 3 agents who were resentful for a minute left, and all of a sudden a good chunk of revenue is gone. And that felt better for both of us, where we were like, we can still be a leader. You can still coach. You can still do the things that I know you love doing and like pour into people, but not with this commission breath through the agent, which I feel is a bad zone to be, right? I mean, you probably know, Brian, as you're growing your business, my wife would know if I didn't have a deal pending for a while, because I would be anxious. Yes. You know, in those moments when you're grinding and building, and you're like, if something's not under contract or in escrow, people around you felt it. And guess what? If your wife feels it, so does your would-be client, right? So I was feeling that through the agents. I was like, it was just lots of little daggers. And I'm like, I don't want to live that life again.
Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey to set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. And I've been there, man. As you're sharing that, I'm literally thinking about the times that we were building out our mortgage teams, and you had one of the teams would have a larger percentage of either the profitability or the volume, and you're like just worried they would leave. And inevitably, I don't know how similar it is on the real estate side, but seeing the numbers, like, it's about a 3-year average lifespan. Some producers will stick longer, but if you just look at the average person, they typically trade companies every 3 or so years. I'm like, man, that's horrible to think that we're gonna have 3 years together. Maybe you get a little longer, but the average person, so if you had 10 branches or 10 teams and 10 people there, like, chances are more than half of them are leaving you in 3 years. And so we went a different route of like, well, how do we insulate that? What are the issues? And I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Is, I know it's competitive, right? I mean, you got to think retaining your agents. I know for us, retaining branches and people, there's recruiting that's happening. People are offering them money. They're offering them things. What do you think builds a strong culture? Because for you to have 110, I mean, that's not by accident. Is there a culture that you've been intentional and that you've learned, and this is what really attracts the best and keeps them with us long term?
Totally. That's a great question. Going from 10 agents, selling a home every 2.5 days. Like, so again, top 5 team in our market at that time, back when I was running the team. Good. Yeah. Things were going well. Opening that idea up to scale, to grow the high value brokerage model, which would attract more people to it. Right. Culture was the only thing I was worried about scaling. Everything else is easy to scale. You scale people, you scale HR, you scale finances, you scale tech. It's just like, that's just a matter of doing it. You know what I mean? Scaling culture had to be massively intentional, and right down to the hiring process, right down to like which agents would be allowed in, right? Being very intentional. And we were never lead generation focused, meaning that if somebody came here for leads, it was always like, you might as well just go that way. There's another 100 teams, right? Doesn't mean you're not going to get leads, but you're here for proactive coaching. You're here to give back to your agent community, to be collaborative. This is valuable to you. Like, we defined the values that Redline was going to be, which was this abundance versus scarcity, give to each other. We host meetings. You don't have to be here, but the best people do. And just build this fundamental, like, this is how we do it. And your competition doesn't, and most brokerages don't, right? And most teams are too small to give. The culture is hard to provide too much value if you've only a handful of people. So we were building this unicorn, right? This little thing in the middle where we're larger than most, but we're leaning in as if we're like this little Navy SEAL team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we just continue to come back to that. And our agents through the years, the right fit agents stayed and they gave. And then the bad fit agents moved on and realized culture wasn't my friend. I want to be a lone wolf, which is totally cool. Then you wouldn't see the value prop of being around Redline and what we did. So yeah, that continues to be, if I ask the 110 agents why they're here, it wouldn't be all the fancy tech. It wouldn't be the cool branding, the marketing. It wouldn't be the market share. It wouldn't be the number one in Canada. It would be because people care here. Mm-hmm. And I think that if I ever let go of that, though, as a leader, and I wasn't the chief engagement officer of it, I think part of it would fall away. And that's the trouble with a culture-based organization. Even though you bring right fit people in, your leadership has to be really, like, that has to be who you are. You can't fake that over the long term,
Yeah. I love it. I saw one of your videos and it kind of inspired me. You were giving out, I think there were jackets at the 1 year.
Oh yeah. The jerseys, the hockey jerseys.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, that's so cool. And so we're always thinking of ways of, how can we recognize the team members without, doing something that's just traditional and like, oh, here's your card or your plaque and something they're never going to use. And so you inspired us with that. I sent that over to our marketing team and I was like, hey, how cool would this be? We create these jerseys, we give them out, right? And there's maybe different ones for a year, 5 years, 10 years, and all, like just have something really special and cool. And it's much more culturally, probably relevant today to have that versus give me a medal or plaque. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, we put their last name on the back, and then we put the year that they joined, right? So, like in my case, it says 09 because that was the year the brokerage started, and it was before all this team thing. But then, like the early agents that we have, so we started in 2016. So you'll show up and you'll see, oh, somebody's got blank 16. They're like, oh, wow, I didn't know you were with Redline for 9 years now. And it is a nice play. And we bring those up on our big events and we say, bring your jerseys, let's get some new shots. Yes. And it is a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, not cheap, but it is super fun. I think one more thing I'd like to comment on about like team is like, we're all breeding, like we're all on independent contractors, right? Like all realtors are, all mortgage guys are, gals. So it's like, every one of these agents, we're trying to put food on the table for our own families. Yeah. And then sometimes we're a part of an organization or a team that matters, and they choose to be on your team or my team. And then they pick to be a part of the brokerage where you're licensed at, right? Which is another brand. And I always I speak on team leader panels a lot. I think one of the secrets to our success is we give a home for an agent so that the agent remains the star. Right? It is their brand. It is their name. It is them that their people are going to remember. So as long as Redline's brand doesn't kind of step over you and it aligns with you, the better chance that retention stays. Where everything we bring to the table from marketing allows them to remain the star to their database, to their people, and not overstep like a lot of team leaders tend to do. They're just kind of like, it's all me and you're just a minion. And then with us, with the brokerage, can we create an alignment with the brokerage so that the brokerage is also part of the value proposition and they can pull upon themselves when they need to, meaning like, I'm a rock star, I do good things, my testimonials, yes. But I also want to elevate the team brand because they matter to me, but they're not overstepping me. Mm-hmm. And then can I also create that third alignment to the brokerage? And if you can do that from a marketing play and give them this feeling that it's not just about them, because that's overwhelming as an independent contractor to feel like you build it all. You can leverage team when you want team, and you can leverage brokerage, and they all tend to work together. I wake up every day trying to figure out that alignment, knowing the head of an independent agent. They don't really care about me at the end of the day. They care about themselves and their family and their wealth. But can I throw something into their world that makes them say, that should be a part of my marketing because Redline did this. This is cool. This is an extension of me, not an overstep of me. Does that make sense? Totally.
Yeah, and I love that because it's really why I made the shift a couple times in my career was I saw this almost dichotomy that people didn't see at larger companies. The larger companies, I find those are the ones that they want you to have their jersey on all the time. They want you to promote their brand. And I get it's like you promote their brand, you promote them. But I always thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was inverted and the personal brand, was the 75, 80% of the deal. And then it's like powered by or supported by or like collaborative here with the company. And to your point, like when those values align, they should help each other. And I've had along my career people that I wouldn't go work there or we wouldn't align on this because they're like, man, I don't like this stuff you're doing building your personal brand. Almost made them scared or fearful. Right. And the ones that get it though, like what you've done, and I kind of watch this and study this. And I go, man, this is so cool to see because your brand complements and then people are attracted and go, I don't know, where do you work? Oh, then they start connecting dots. Oh, I know somebody else that's there. Oh, I've heard good things about Real, right? Or I've heard about Redline. And I say when they work together, which I'm on the same journey as you, Darren, so I'm gonna be watching that. We're gonna have to collaborate on that more because that is something we're working on is we've got our company brand, then we've got teams and almost franchises within that. And some are larger teams like multiple offices and states. And then we have this personal brand that a lot of people are starting to figure out is important. And so how do you put them all together?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, my friend, because you've got a podcast, you're speaking, you do education. Like I see you out there doing all these things. And to me, like that is the personal brand embodiment, and it is alive and well, because when you go speak, you're representing all three of those layers in my mind, right?
Totally.
Like maybe the personal, but if they don't know you, they probably never get to your company or your team.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I had a consult once with somebody talking about just because at Real Broker, I mean we've grown locally, right? A big part of my agent body is at Redline locally, but a big part of my ongoing wealth is I'm a growth ambassador with Real Broker, which is this other entity across North America, and to explore to that is such. You need a personal brand beyond your local market to hit scale, right? And you guys are national and things like that. I kind of had to like have this shift. My identity was the founder of Redline, right? And then there was a while there to make Redline anything. I had to be the star, right? I had to be the one forward facing. For years, you would see Darren stuff, Darren market updates, Darren videos, Darren this. And then as we grew, I had to flip it. I said, Darren can no longer be the star. Redline has to have its brand. And once in a while it's Darren, and then it's his partner. And then we elevate the agents. Yeah. So we've been elevating the agents' brands to make it feel like they're co-CEOs with me, right? So when we made that shift, it kind of gave me freedom to say, okay, can I do something else to elevate my brand and put it to the top? But now not just the top of Redline. Redline has its own identity happening, right? We've built its thing, it's stabilized it, and we'll keep elevating people. So Darren doesn't have to be the star there. He can be an advocate. He can be a knowledge broker. He can be the brand. And that actually shift only happened when I went to Real. When we took Redline and we created its thing at Real, and we had already kind of started elevating the agents. So then the personal branding play became just giving to more, right? I could now give outside of the Redline family. And that's where the re-education school came up, and speaking and allowing myself to share a message I've been sharing internally for so long, but now to an audience that had never heard it. Yeah. And of course, with personal branding and how it can do for you, it just became a bigger focus and intention is really what it is it would have never happened unless I made a conscious choice to say, it's time to do it. It's time to plan it. It's time to, figure out what is my voice, because I'm not just any other coach. And what am I going to actually stand for? It's not content for the sake of content. It's content that if I re-listen to it, I don't puke. I want it to be heard. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think a lot of people just start putting stuff out. And so I've gone through those journeys where I just put out. And I'm like, nah, like it feels like a chore versus what do I want to say? What do I want to be known for?
Yes.
And then you just reverse engineer that to say, okay, like, for me, it became to what I have the experience in and stay in the lane and just keep staying in the lane and forcing the staying in the lane so that I can just resonate better with an audience that matters. I'm not the flashy brand guy. Yeah. I'm not the, I'm not the funny meme creator video guy, right? Like I'm an introvert, I'm an ex-engineer. So like, what does that mean, right? You and I talked about wealth building, right? So share the journey on the developments we're making, and just stay where I think authentically I would enjoy staying for a long time. Like, is that Hermosi that says it? It's like, if you can't do it every day, don't do it at all or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got some things like that have resonated, and he's been one, he shared this proof over promise. We started to implement that was, our industry. And I'm sure, I see it in real estate too. It's like people want to promise all these things, whatever they are. And the proof is what people actually gravitate towards. Right. And it's pulling them in. And I love you shared this journey, because I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, Darren, I still see it. It's like, they know they need to build a personal brand. They know they need to do something online and content and all. And you've started to do it, and you were talking through your journey. What would be your biggest lesson that you learned? If you were able to go back and start it over, is there anything you would have done differently or wish you knew?
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't have much of it figured out. It feels like because so it's
Me either.
evolving, but I think there's a pressure to have such a cadence that puts you into like this creator mode that you're not ready for, right? So I guess what I'm saying is I've had the most impact ever on my social media journey now that I've pulled back how often I post. And that is completely contrary to everybody that tells you 3 a day now, the noise is out there, everybody, and that's true. But like for me, I made a post about my son and being a shitty dad, and
So,
it blew up.
yeah.
I also made a post probably 3 weeks before that about posting every single day and then shared my journey. It blew up, right? But when I just made little clips that were just kind of okay, every one of them fell on deaf ears. You know what I mean? So it's like more impact. And I think thinking through, is this impact or is this just simply volume?
Yeah.
And I think for most of us as we're building it, I don't think we'll ever be able to have anybody who cares about our volume unless we make impact first.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense at all?
Oh, it's power, and I wrestle with that all the time. I tell people that's the biggest struggle. It's like, it's your point, the ones that you post and share that you think are not anything. I love the one about your son, by the way, because being a parent, 3 kids in sports and all this stuff, it's like you look back like, oh, I didn't get that right. Sometimes I get it right, and you go, man, those are the things. But as a parent, everybody relates to it, and they're like, oh, yeah, I've been there, and
Yeah.
whether we've done it, thought it, or just been in that situation, I think that's what people want. And I read yours about not posting as much, and even had me thinking about this: is if everybody's going this route and they're listening to the Gary V's and all the people saying you got to post 3 times a day, you got to get volume, volume, volume. We had Grant Cardone on yesterday, right? And Grant's huge on like exposure and awareness and all this stuff. Well, if everybody's playing that game and it dilutes some of the value they're adding and some of the authenticity of it, and you play this other game, I just wonder who's actually winning. Because I think back to me, it's not vanity metrics and things. It's like, how many people can I take from an online post, create engagement, to create an offline conversation and hopefully a relationship? And I go, it was never my best post, never, or most viral. It was the post like you did, like posting about sports. My health journey is one, and fear speaking, and like starting to do that quite often. And I was, oh, I never would have known that. I'm like, that's why I'm telling you.
Like the vulnerability, I think, that we all hold back on. I think I get a lot of offline comments that when I finally do open up, they're like, I didn't know this side of you, Darren. And if I'm truly honest, most people don't know the real, like the full Darren, right? And it's like the moments they come out and I'm willing to like say the thing about bad dad or tell me like this posting strategy almost broke me. And it's like they see you and they see me in this like somewhat figureheaded position. And we're all in that in our little worlds. If I have 200 followers or 200,000,
Yep.
You're always worried to keep yourself to a level of like status within your people. A room of 200 is still powerful. A room of 2 million is incredibly powerful. And then if you show weakness or like I fucked up or something, you're like, I'm going to damage this like professionalism that they see me as. And I do hold back sometimes and more. And the more I don't, the better I feel. And I know it's like my tribe is my tribe that stays and comments and shares. It's just a tricky thing for us as business people when it's, you see these beautifully edited things and these graphics and captions and everything has to look like it's pro. But I don't think many of it lands super well, right? In comparison to the real Brian, right?
Yeah. And most people don't get to see the real Darren and the real Brian until they come to these events and they get to hang out. And I know it's how we met. And I'm put a little plug in for, obviously Atlas Alliance. I know, broker agnostic, so it's not for any group, but if you can be part of these events, like these type of relationships, guys, the people you want to meet, I say, proximity is kind of the cheat code and a superpower in the sense of you'll be able to meet people in person and be able to figure out, is that somebody I want to spend more time with, I want to connect up with or not? If you're just doing it online, I can tell you, it gets pretty lonely and you don't meet people and that ain't going to work. So don't do that. And I know we share this passion too. This is something to kind of close us out is, you've shared this a lot. You even shared one of the books years ago, impacted me, with David Bach, Automatic Millionaire Homeowner and Automatic Millionaire Next Door and all these things. I remember we heard about him when I was at Wells Fargo, like early 2002, 2003. I'm still writing loans. I remember him talking about, all these things about pay yourself first and creating these budgets and the latte factor and all this stuff. I'm like, well, rent your first home. And we learned it. And your passion around helping agents generate real wealth and become, millionaires. I think it's the same thing I've got with mortgage folks, because I've seen it over the years. And it sounds like it's the same in real estate. It's like, I know people that have had record years, like 7-figure years, crazy numbers year after year, and they have nothing to show for it. Like it's spent, it's gone. They have no wealth. And they're back to the next one on the hamster wheel of like, if I don't close any deals, I have no money. And I just always thought, man, what if we took care of our people and taught them fundamentals, managing money, investing in real estate, all of that. So I know you're passionate about it. What do you wish more agents knew about that journey of truly building wealth while they're in real estate, selling, leading a team, but how else they can actually get in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I share, one of the keynotes I give is like how to become a millionaire realtor. And I built it, and that's the first third of it is full vulnerability to my crash, where when I was in my mid 20s and, I'd split with my ex and took on all the marital debt that we had as stupid 20-year-olds, just so that I could keep a little bit of the real estate that I held that at that point was underwater, right? It was underwater, but I knew I had to hold it. I just didn't want to have to give away half or sell it, because it's so much harder to acquire one or get on title, especially when everything else is not going well. So I share that, and I kind of consider this concept of there's 3 steps to building millionaire wealth. Right. And one of them is income derivative, right? So we need a stable income base, which is what most coaches teach. And what we're trying to figure out is income. And then, like you said, the $1 million producer had their best year ever. But then if they talk to them offline, there's 0 left. Right. And so income, right? It's like, how do you write more loans? How do you sell more houses? Right. Is one. Then, how do I use leverage? Right. Maybe how do I get other people, like we talked about, teams that are out there trying to put food on their table, and you get a small split, right? So there's team, or in our case, like a rev share model at Real, where how can support people. If I write the same amount of loans, but can I just write higher price loans, right? Can I do a higher price point sales is another way to drive income, right? And the other one might be just not discounting, right? So agents choose to discount friends and discount this, and you might take I know you get different, points based on which lenders give you what product, and you always go for the one with the lower. So you're just earning less per check. So that's income, right? That's that kind of circle. There's only 4 ways to do it. But then the step one is expense management that no realtor, no broker ever wants to talk about. Yeah. And they might for a minute, but they never live it. Right? You and I might talk about, like, we need to talk to 5 new people a day, and you stick to it because it's income. Mm-hmm. But when it's expenses, you're like, I need to keep my cost below X, meaning I have $20 budget for coffee this month. Mm-hmm. Basically, nobody does that. You know what I mean? That's so right. Then the latte factor comes in, and your expense management goes completely out the window, and you're spending everything you make. If you do that, there's no stage 3. Which means I call it net free cash flow, right? So if your income is wicked and your expenses are out of control but match the income level, high or low, you got no net free cash flow to do anything.
That's right.
And that's the only place any of us are going to build any wealth, right? So like whether you're a $100,000 agent, a $50,000 agent, a $250,000 agent, there has to be some net free cash flow that you're excited to chase, not just the top line earning.
That's right.
I was telling a coaching client this morning that I told him, like, I get to put another $4,000 a month into my kitty that's like net free cash flow above. And like, I was waiting for eyes to perk up, and they didn't. And like, for me, even where I'm at, an extra $4,000 of net free cash flow per month says I get stoked, because I'm like, I know I'm dialed in. Mm-hmm. My income is whatever it is. Now that has freed up another new tranche of money that can jump into the asset column.
That's right.
Right. And most people won't get excited about that little net free cash flow number, and it'll hold them back, and they'll never make it, and they'll wait for the big wins.
That's right.
They'll wait for the big, I closed 3 deals this month. I got an extra 10 grand, but it doesn't happen as much, right? You know, so that's kind of what I teach, is that fall in love with the net free cash flow, but you can only fall in love with it if your income's stable and you understand expenses. And then you need to super be excited about what that $2,000 a month could do for me.
Yes.
And you know, that has to be long, right? That's the length of your career long. $2,000 per month compounded is something pretty big, especially when it's using the power of leveraged assets like real estate, or, you know, stuff like that, or some dividend paying stock or something that's not lattes, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So that concept, I just think, you know, we're both in industries that have no cap, meaning we can earn more than C-suite, Fortune 500, and a lot of the top producers do, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, knowing that, let's not forget the power for which we yield, and get excited for it. And maybe that's the awareness thing that most agents don't. I'll get it next year when I make a little more money this year and I got 40K. Like, you just won't, unless you can think about it when you've got virtually nothing.
No, I remember that automatic payments and paying extra on the mortgage and everything you're talking about there. I think about, you know, being in the business now for over 2 decades. I look and go, okay, I'm not that old yet. I got time left, but I can look back 20 years and it's like those little investments in a 401k, those little investments, you know, $500 or into an income producing asset and leverage debt on real estate. It's like, man, had we not done some of that 10, 20 years ago, we have nothing. And people, I love that you share that, because, you know, I always call it like the home run effect. You know, everybody's like, I want to hit the grand slam, the home run. I mean, I'm just waiting for that month. It's going to be like double, triple what I normally like. And then when all that happens, then I'll invest over here. And it's like, what about the 500 a month? The $4,000 you're talking about, like what that will produce.
Yeah. And you do that well. You chase the net free cash flow rather than income. You get excited about that journey, and then you save up and you get that investment property. You buy that condo, buy the townhouse, get the fourplex, do the thing. But then those create big wins for future. Like, I just exited a 5-parcel property that my business partner and I took 12 years to build, and I did 3 years to rezone it. And I got the biggest payday of my life.
Yeah.
None of it has to go into operations of Darren's life. It's all for retirement. And then you can tell how the rich get richer pretty quick, because the big tranches happen if the little tranches are done right. And then you reinvest that because you don't need it for your daily life anyways. And it just blows up. You see the hockey stick effect from a net worth, right? And then you kind of have these moments. You're like, thank goodness. But I just wish people could kind of see that. And I built a modeler that agents, and I could share it, you know, where you could plug in your own income and like play this journey where there's this net free cash flow or not towards your like millionaire gap analysis. And you could put a number in it that would say, like, do I sell more, or do I just sell more higher priced? Or, you know, do I buy real estate, or do I, you know, what do I have to just get a sense for what would this little like $100,000 earners who only spends 70, has 30K left, what could that do for me? Just, I wish people had that awareness, you know?
Yeah, I love that you create a tool for it too. And yeah, please share that, and we'll get that out to the audience, and we'll conclude your socials for Instagram and everywhere. But if people are listening and they don't see the show notes, let's give your Instagram handle so they can find you there.
Yeah, so it's just at Darren Langille. So, I mean, Instagram is the place where you'll see the stories and stuff and my infrequent posting. They do push to Facebook if you're more of a Facebook friend too, and that's always a fun place because there seems to be a good contact. I do record YouTube videos again at Darren Langille. Again, infrequent, and it's all realtor focused content if somebody's interested, or real broker content, because I usually like to break it down with my engineer mind about why this works for you. So yeah.
Dude, great stuff. And thank you for making time. This has been even better than expected, which I always love. And I know we could have covered so many other topics, but I love this because there's some fundamentals that everybody listening will be able to go back through that, whether it's the end and they need to get their income and their budget and that net free cash flow, figure out that game plan. Maybe they never even thought about it or heard about it. And they're like, hold on, I need to do that. Mm-hmm. Or they're listening to some of the other conversations about building a team, culture, sales, all the things that you've done, building your personal brand. Dude, I love that we've connected. I love what you're doing out there. And I can't wait to support the journey, because I just think when more people get out and they collaborate like this, we start to realize what's possible. And then people go, you know what? Okay, I love what they're doing there, but I'm going to do it this way for me and go build something really worthwhile. And Dude, I appreciate you. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I second that. We build without that personal brand intention and build where we can share some of the stuff you've learned, and you and I would have never connected. And that's some of the negatives of social and the traps we get on and the endless doom scrolling. But we end up with these connections that we never would have otherwise. And you're going to find that whether you're an agent looking to be on stages, or you're just looking to connect with vendors locally, or across state lines, is that brand's never going to hurt you. But of course, make it intentional, make it authentic. And again, that's how we ended up where we are, you and I, talking and hopefully giving some value to your audience. So I really appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Darren. And for everybody, make sure you like, subscribe, share this episode with friends, especially if you're in real estate mortgage. I mean, this was literally a masterclass in things that I think are not talked about. But if you want to have your best year ever, I mean that, your best year in 2025, doesn't mean you sell the most, make the most. You could implement something that you just actually have a better life, a life that you actually intentionally design. Go back and share this with friends. Listen to it, implement it. Make sure you leave us a review. If something has resonated, I always ask this, there's no cost, right? We do this for free to share with everybody and add value, but let us know. As I always love to see what are the impacts that happen because you listen to somebody that was a guest like Darren on the show, and then you took an action afterwards. So until then, go out there, do something great, and make sure you share this with somebody that needs to hear what we talked about today. Thanks, guys.